to some extent. I suppose my involvement in social work was a bit of an accident. I did start off at uni doing psychology and couldn't do the rats and stats, so I ended up doing anthropology, and that got me into welfare work in Halls Creek. I think once I had contact with people there, I knew, there was an opportunity to assist people, but I had to figure out how to do that. I learned that partnership was based on care and respect and trust. You had to build trust, because if the family or the community thought you were there to tell them what to do, they got a sense of, oh, here's this white fella or welfare officer, whoever it might, whatever you represented was there to tell them what to do, that you weren't listening to them, you were there to just instruct them, they wrote you off pretty quickly. They need to get a sense that you care about them, you trust them, and you respect them. And that's pretty hard to do when you're working with someone who's hurting their children. It's really hard to work through that and to suspend that when, and maybe I'm being unfair in terms of later on when I got to move to Perth and got more heavily involved in child protection work and was really in the front line. And, there were some pretty confronting cases. And I worked with some very experienced and knowledgeable child protection workers who'd been working in the field for a long time, and I could see that they engaged in a positive way with families, which led to different conversations. And I knew then that I had to figure out my own way of working, not just in child protection, but working in social work. But I think, I think it's the Western system of we have to identify the problem, and once we know the problem, and we spend a long time analysing the problem and figuring it out, and then we can work out what the solution is. That might work in some settings. It might work in medical settings. It might work in some engineering settings. But when you're dealing with people, if you're just looking at problems, you're going to find more problems. And the source of people's problems are just, I know myself, you've got a problem, it comes from all sorts of different areas. And I think that's where solution-focused brief therapy helped me in terms of acknowledging that there's a problem there, whatever source it might be, but let's find a way through it. So let's look at, in the past, how you've dealt with these sorts of problems or a similar kind of problem, which is not the answer to everything, but there may be, that may be some help, And certainly, coming to signs of safety, it created an opportunity to have different conversations with families in crisis and to have different outcomes. And that was satisfying. That was what I enjoyed. Enjoyed the work much more than just going in and looking for problems and getting overwhelmed by the problems. Whereas problems are there, let's figure out some ways and let's have some different conversation. We learned that it's not just the grandparents you've got to talk to, you've got to talk to the wider members of the family or wider members of the community. Because, that old saying, it takes a village to raise a child. Well, there's more. We all know in our lives how important our grandparents are and uncles and aunts, and they all have an influence on us. And parenting's not easy, And I've got two daughters, and there are times when you're challenged. There are times when you lose the plot, but most of us can come back from that. And But there are sometimes parents and families under such stress, all kinds of stress, that they need some assistance, and it does get back to helping those people, like you're saying, change behaviour, change culture, and sitting down with them and figuring it out, finding the solutions. But like I said before, not throwing out your own expertise, but putting that into the mix as well. One of the things that really excited me is that when I started using solution focused brief therapy, and then we developed signs of safety, is that I enjoyed my work much more. I could see other workers enjoying their work, because child protection work is hard work, it's tough work, it's stressful work, and there was a big burnout. Some social workers lasted 9 months in child protection. 2 years was a pretty good effort. It is stressful, but when we could see people, when I started enjoying my work, I could see people enjoying their work. The spin-off was that people stayed longer, and that was one of the things that was important for families, to have that continuity that was based on the respect that you knew when the case was going to be closed. Because in some of those, when I joined the department in some of those early days, a few of the cases were years old. There'd been an investigation, parents had gone to a parenting class, that the case was still open, and social workers would meet with the family once every 3 months. But there was no work being done with them. So that was one of the things that we wanted to do, is to establish with the family that this is the point at which we can say there's enough safety that satisfies us and you, and we can close the case. Now, if something ever happened again in the future, we'd go back in, but you're not hanging around like some lurking child protection worker that's ready to snatch the kid at any future challenge. The book put signs of safety, and it put Andrew and myself on the international stage. But people in English-speaking countries were buying the book and reading it, and were interested in it. And that's when Andrew was able to say, look, let's take this. We've seen it works locally. People are interested in locally. Let's try and see if there are people internationally. And I remember him saying to me, look, we can be doing this when we're 70. And I thought, oh, jeez. Well, I'm there and I'm retired, and Andrew's still got a way to go. But there's no less energy I see in Andrew. I mean, he'd come into the office when we were working, he'd come into the office with a new idea or a new project, and I'd think, oh, here we go. So no less energy from Andrew, but a lot of people that have been involved. Can't name them all. Like to, but there's just too many people to name. Signs of safety started off with Andrew and me, but signs of safety is not ours, it's everybody's now who's had a hand in it, and I thank them for that. Really just all there is to say is happy 30 years, Signs of Safety. You're looking just as good now as you did 30 years ago.